No, not frequently, but theme parks, like I said, they want to keep people coming back. So every so often, they will renovate whole areas. Just recently, much to my chagrin, they closed down one of my old favorite attractions, which was Jaws. Rest in peace, Jaws. But they closed down Jaws because it was, especially in Orlando, they are really limited in space. Actually, all the parks. You know, you only have so much space. You don't have the money to always expand it. So if you want to build something new, you have to close something down. So in this case, they closed down Jaws, drained the whole park, and were able to take that whole Amityville section and turn it into a new Harry Potter section. Update it, modernize it, bring in new technology. As for like tune-ups and stuff, when switching over to the original Harry Potter park, there was an old section called the Lost Continent that wasn't super popular. And they kind of stole some of those attractions from there and rethemed it into Harry Potter. So my old favorite roller coaster, Dueling Dragons, instead of getting rid of Dueling Dragons, they instead changed it to Harry Potter's Dragon Challenge. So now instead of riding a fire dragon and an ice dragon, it's a Hungarian horntail and a Chinese fireball. They rethemed the queue to be more Harry Potter themed, and just kind of, without changing the ride itself or attraction itself, brought up that area and that attraction to be Harry Potter themed. Or like, sorry, no, I'm just rambling, but the best example of updating an attraction itself without changing it is Disney's Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion is one of the oldest open rides, and it is constantly changing. People love it so much. Actually, just the other day, they brought back the famous hat box ghost, excuse me, which means pretty much nothing, not even to me, because this is a ghost they took out 40 years ago. But people loved it so much, and it's become such an icon of the park, that when they were doing tweaks here and there, they say, let's add back the hat box ghost. Or sometimes for Christmas, they'll add Jack Skellington and the whole Nightmare Before Christmas crew to the Haunted Mansion. Yes, unfortunately not in Orlando, but like they will constantly update rides, modernize it. The Simpsons ride in Universal is a great example. They keep throwing in references here and there. Like they have a little flex slot for pop culture references. So I guess frequently is the answer. Kiana, you got a question?
What's the best ride you have been on? Or your favorite?
Best ride immersion-wise, or best ride just overall?
Whichever.
I have a real soft spot for the Buzz Lightyear ride in Disney, because it's one of the first ones I remember. I would always sit next to my dad, and he would always say, I'm going to kick your ass, even though I was like 4 or 5. And I'd say, no way you're going to do that. And just 2 years ago, I finally beat him, where I set my own personal record, where I got the highest score possible, less than a third of the way through the ride. I found basically years and years of studying, the culmination, to become the ultimate space ranger. You know, I got up at the end of the second ride, just kicked back my feet, sat like this the whole time. My dad was in the car in front of me. Eventually, he's trying to beat my score, saying, I'm going to win again, I'm going to win again. Turns around to the right, and just sees me staring smugly at him. And then he's like, no way. And I'm like, it happened, Dad. That's what after the ride. We almost lost my younger brother, who was like 8 or 9. Because as soon as we got off the ride, he scurried off to find a cast member and tell them, my older brother got a perfect score. Does he get a prize? And eventually we found him, and he brought a cast member over who gave me a big button. There was a happy birthday button. They crossed out happy birthday, and they wrote Galactic Hero, John, 9999, and then dated it. I still have it somewhere at home, but that is one of my proudest moments.
And Rob, have you been headhunted yet by Star Command?
What?
Have you been headhunted yet by Star Command?
Let's say I've got some offers on the table, but Zurich pays better. Rob, yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, how many of these theme parks do you go to a year? And my second question is that, like, if you do this much research on them and you know like the entire ride before you go in, does that spoil the illusion at all?
So that's something I was going to talk about after the question thing. Well, after not question thing, but the question and answer session. So the sad truth is, as times get tighter for the family and I get older, I'm not going as much as I used to. But my family has a policy of always taking one vacation a year, like one family trip. My grandparents, when they came over from Cuba, fell in love with Disney real quickly, so that's kind of always been like a thing in my family, Disney. So when I was younger, we used to go basically once a year. As I got older, started spacing out to once every 2 years, once every 3 years, and we usually switch between Disney and Universal. But I'd wager I've probably been about somewhere between 10 to 20 times in my life. As for the second part of your question, I think it's a very good question. And on the flip side, I'm inclined to say I don't think it ruins the magic, because I'm able to disassociate myself and almost appreciate it more as an art than as an illusion. Be able to say, like, you can see, I'm not entirely sure how to vocalize this, but it's like, actually, who the fuck watches Puppeteers? But I was going to say, watching a master marionnetter and knowing it's a puppet, but still like being able to appreciate how they're able to control it, appreciate how they're able to pull off certain things they are, or even just appreciate the technology behind it. Like, I know we're all obsessed with new technologies, right? To me, it's the same appreciating a theme park technology as it is anywhere else. Because thinking, it's really cool they were able to pull this off in these constraints and create this feeling, evoke these images, et cetera, et cetera. And when I want to, like I said, I can just turn off my mind for a while, enjoy the ride as it is, ride it a second time, be like, ooh, I bet that's how they did that. I bet that's how they did that. Read up on it later. So hopefully that answers what you're asking.
Totally.
Carl.
What is the hardest part about keeping people immersed in a
Keeping
ride?
people immersed?
Yeah.
Disgruntled parents. Honestly, it sounds like a joke answer, but it really is. Because like when you look at immersion, whether you're like a 5-year-old kid or a 21-year-old man-child, one of the things that really breaks that illusion is your parents being like, this is boring, or I'm sick of waiting in line, let's go do this. Or just that, honestly, other guests are the biggest source of immersion breaking. Because you don't really feel like you're on a 1600s pirate island when you have a whole family of stockbrokers in front of you who are just on their cell phones talking about trading this, trading that the whole time. It's like, hey, I'm trying to listen to the pirates. I know there aren't stockbroker families, but you get what I'm saying. So I'd say, yeah, other guests are. They just sell to each other. That's what it is, I'm pretty sure. It's the dad being like, yes, I'd like to sell 5 orange juice. And the son will be like, perfect, I'll buy 6.
What's the weirdest example of a time where a cast member was incredibly meticulous about their job so that they didn't break the illusion or they augmented it in some way? It was just surprising to you with the attention to detail.
Well, the security guard I mentioned earlier is a great example of that. But I think an even better example is a guy who's kind of become a legend in the parks, which I don't know his name, unfortunately. But there was a guy who played Peter Pan in Walt Disney World for the longest time. And this Peter Pan was phenomenal. He'd basically be able to, what? Oh. He'd basically be able to pick kids out of a crowd who looked like they weren't having the greatest time or weren't exactly believing in the illusion or, were having something upset with them. He'd find them, and as Peter Pan, basically tell them to cheer up or stay strong, and like he'd find ways to spin it, like we'll defeat the bad guys together and that kind of thing, and just basically change a kid's perspective. Because when you're young and this movie character you love, that is perfectly cast, by the way, comes over and tells you, things are going to be okay, you believe it. So Gaston is another phenomenal example. Recently, they've added a Gaston impersonator to Fantasyland, and everyone claims he is one of the best parts. Because the Gaston is so perfectly organized, when you take pictures with him, he'll block your face out. He will do things like sweep people off their feet. He will marvel, he will pose, he will push you out of the way. Like, this Gaston is spot on. And to that, a lot of people just are impressed. Because these are people who honestly aren't even getting paid that much, and are doing it sheerly out of like the love of the character and the love of the illusion. And so when you have those standout roles, they really stand out. I'll see if I can find when I post it on Slack, I'll see if I can find a video of Gaston. Alex.
Peter Pan actually had to retire.
Yes, he did, because he got too old and couldn't play Peter Pan.
No, he got Cyberstock.
Oh, did he?
Going back to guests ruining the immersion.
Oh, man.
Yeah, people guests just loved him too much. That would ruin it for people.
I did not hear the part about the cyber stuff. I know he got married to one of the other actresses. I think it was Ariel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin.
You have just been hired by Universal as their chief architect in charge of constructing the new Nintendo attractions. What 3 IPs are you most excited to turn into immersive experiences?
Mario Kart, Pokemon, Legend of Zelda.
Yes. Care to elaborate?
Okay, so first things first, for those of you who haven't heard the news, Universal has recently struck up a partnership with Nintendo to bring Nintendo IPs to Theme Park Life, which is big, especially for someone who's a huge fan of Nintendo and theme parks. So I guess, let me ask, you asked why I chose those 3. First things first, I think Pokemon you have to pick hands down. It is one of the biggest franchises. When you talk about an immersive experience, everybody, to this day and age, I know you think it, I know I think it, says, what could life be like if I had my own Pokemon? And what better way of bringing it to life
I do think it all the time.
than an immersive experience. Like recently, Disney had this thing called Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, where just to keep people immersed throughout the parks without being on the rides or whatever, they have these little, basically NFC portraits or windows or something. And when you show up to Disney World, they give you 9 trading cards that represent Disney characters. And what happens is the person who starts you on a journey. And you go around the parks, find these portals, and fight villains using these little cards. So they do in the downtime. And a lot of people have loved this technology because it gives you something to do outside of the rides, something to do different each time. And that kind of thing is actually what a lot of people are clamoring for Pokemon right now. The ability to get little Pokemon throughout the course. Imagine that. You show up to Universal, and along with your ticket, they hand you a little toy Pokeball. This little Pokeball has every little Pokemon you collect along your journeys, and hidden throughout the park are little tiny spots. Like let's say in a line for, let's say the Rainbow Road roller coaster, behind, there's like a painting or an item box or something, and right off to the side of it, you notice there's a little patch. So you press your Pokeball to the patch, that painting rewrites itself as a Pokemon battle screen. You fight the Pokemon, you capture it. The fact that you have this Pokemon saves itself to your Pokeball. People trade them maybe, you play with them, you just show them off. Just something like that really captures that illusion, while even not even being a major part to the park. So that's why I'd be really excited to capture Pokemon. Not to mention, I think it would just be really relaxing to have a Pokemon Snap ride.
So that's exactly what I want to hear. I want to hear, like, what would they look like? Like, what would you do to turn Pokemon into an immersive theme park experience? And that's a good example of catching them. And I think obviously Mario Kart lends itself to that. But Legend of Zelda, what would you do to?
So I think Legend of Zelda is honestly one of I'm not honest. Obviously, is the word I'm looking for. Obviously, one of Nintendo's most popular IPs. What a lot of people like about Legend of Zelda is the feeling of exploration, the feeling of puzzle solving, etc., etc. All those keynotes. So I agree, Legend of Zelda would be a little harder to do. But since you're saying I get to design it, this is a dream I've always had of a theme park ride. So we start with a Darklight Simulator, right, which are like the classic little moving motion rides, but the ones that actually follow tracks, like the Spider-Man ride, we'll say. And what I want is in front of guest seats, or within each car or something, a touchscreen. So that as the ride goes on, there will actually be various forks where the user can select an option, or users can select an option. And through that, really create that feeling of puzzle solving. Basically, I want a ride that says, while you're playing through this Legend of Zelda cure, like let's say this timeline, Ganondorf has not only captured Zelda, but he got Link too. And now it's up to you guys, the Tingle Brigade. So you're flying around in your little Tingle balloons, you have a little touchscreen. And so you go through this whole queue, like with monasteries and stained glass showing Zelda and Link getting defeated. And it's up to you guys to try to take it back, right? And so there'd be various forks in the road. Obviously, you can meter it out using something maybe like the trackless technology, so that you won't create hang-ups by people going down different paths, and just giving people the chance to not only ride the experience or experience different paths, but control which path they take. And through that, creating a ride that not only says, wow, I'd love to ride that again and see what else happened, but saying, damn, I wish I could beat that ride. So, and like you said, Mario Kart lends itself really well. Just I think it'd be very satisfying to ride a Rainbow Road roller coaster. That one's not as immersive, but I think it'd be fun.
So the reason I think that this is a really interesting example in this particular topic is because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that people are taking IP, which only existed really in video games, and turning that into an immersive real-life experience.
As far as I know, that's
Whereas
correct.
everything else that we've seen is a TV character or a movie character, a book character, whereas video games are a much more immersive medium. So do you think that that's going to pose interesting challenges or make it easier?
I think it will 100% pull interesting challenges. Not pose. And I'll be honest in that Universal has been on a bit of a hot streak lately with their immersiveness. Disney has always been head and shoulders the best, but Universal's quickly been closing the gap, especially with the Harry Potter being a more recent example. And I think now is the perfect time to try to bridge that gap. Because some people are saying, oh, theme parks are lacking, or the prices are going up. And as there's a little bit of tighter times economically, a lot of people are having a harder time justifying it. By that I mean they're still making tons of money. But I think now is the time to be bold. With all these new technologies coming out, there is a lot of potential in making that jump from, like you said, video games are more choice-based. And I think it's going to, either it's going to be a little bit lackluster and disappointing, or what I think is going to happen is they're going to really knock it out of the park and really bring a whole new element of immersion to theme parks. Taking that choice, like you said, like something maybe like the touchscreen example I was giving, something else, but I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but let's just say I'm very excited, and we'll probably keep the random channel updated with any developments I hear. Hopefully that answers your question?
Oh, no, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Carl?
I got two. First, where's this Nintendo thing going to be? Because I have to go there sometime.
Okay, so right now the deal stipulates either Japan or Orlando. Heavy speculation is both. You heard it here first, money. So the big speculation is when Disney bought Marvel, Universal Orlando already had Marvel properties, right? Part of the stipulations on that buyout was Disney can't open any Marvel attractions in Universal, so Universal gets rid of it, but Universal can't add on to their area. They have a big IP that's only been growing, and it's stagnant. So everyone knows Universal's been fishing for a new replacement, and it looks like they finally struck up this deal with Nintendo, which is a huge IP. So the very common speculation is that Nintendo is going to replace Marvel. But now you heard it here first, is right above Marvel is an area called Toon Lagoon. I love Toon Lagoon, but it's a little past its prime. going back to Jordan's question about modernizing, Toon Lagoon is a whole area based off like Popeye, Dudley Do-Right, old cartoons that really don't mean anything to the new generation anymore. So my expectation is that, especially with an IP as big as Nintendo, that they have a hard time cramming to one area, I think they're going to full out replace Marvel and Toon Lagoon with a huge Nintendo area. Excuse me. They might even try to be really cheeky and do a Harry Potter, put some Nintendo area in both sides of the parks, and then have you cross over via warp pipes or something. Yeah, so it'll definitely be in Orlando, I'm sure. California, there's no plans for it right now because there's just not enough space. But I'm imagining they're going to try to find a way to shoehorn it in there too, because this is too big of a cash cow not to. And what was your second question?
So what is it that attracts you most to the whole building things for theme parks? Is it that you just want to get people really immersed into these things and you want to like build all the rides, or you want to architect the experience, or?
Honestly, all the above. Because, like I said, when I was a kid, I fully bought into all the illusions. Now that I've grown older and had the chance to like really appreciate the engineering behind it, a lot of it becomes, I want to give back and create those illusions to captivate people like they captivated me. And I'll be perfectly honest, I probably would not be an engineer if it wasn't for theme parks. As a kid, I wondered, how the hell do they take a dead Abraham Lincoln and make him a robot talking to me right now? Like, that just boggled my mind as a 5-year-old, you know? How can I see 3D images if my eyes aren't real? It's a joke, because I didn't realize what to follow that up with. So, a lot of it is just, I want to create those illusions, I want to engineer that experience, and mostly, I think there is a lot of potential. Like I said, going back to that video game bridging new immersion stuff, there is a lot of potential for growth in terms of what kind of immersion you can create in a theme park, and I really just want to be a part of it. Because like, going back to my very beginning presentation, I believe everyone has one field that they would drop anything to work in. And for me, that is theme parks. I can't even fully describe why, but there's just something about them that is so captivating to me. It's like a siren. And hopefully that answers your question. Right, yeah.
So, what's it called? So you've been to like 20 theme parks. I've only been to
the
like,
same ones a couple
yeah.
times.
Well, yeah. So, like, I've only been to like 4 or something. You know, like, what kind of like, is there any social hacking, like, you know, like, on Tuesdays you buy fast or whatever. You know, is there anything like that you can recommend to us that you know, your expertise? Yeah, like, do you have anything?
So the big one is choosing when to go to certain attractions. Like I mentioned earlier with Harry Potter World, everyone floods it because it's new, it's fancy, it's really cool. So a lot of people get there before park hours and immediately rush to Harry Potter. So it turns out if you go when everyone's rushing there, even just before the park is open, lines will reach a peak in the morning, for example. So you take those opportunities to go ride the other rides. Ride Dueling Dragons 10 times in a row with 0 wait, while Harry Potter has like a 3-hour line before the park's even open. Or like in Disney, you know, if it's the middle of the day, like when the sun is at its hottest, everyone's going to be going to the indoor rides, Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear. And that's your chance to go ride all the outdoor ones, non-water parks, so Big Thunder Mountain, or things like outdoor queues. It's really, a lot of social hacking, as you put it, is really just time of day, knowing which rides to ride when they're going to be most popular, and therefore planning your schedule counter to that. And it'll just really optimize that most rides, I suppose. If you're ever planning a trip, hit me up and I'll help you write a schedule. Yeah.
What's the best use of space you've seen?
The best use of space. Okay. So in Tokyo Disney Tokyo, they have the Journey to the Center of the Earth ride. Actually, yeah, Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was a ride they had here back in the 80s but closed down. But I think these two are some of the best examples of that. Because Journey to the Center of the Earth takes up only a very small block. Because just like in the old book, you're going to the center of the Earth. And what that means for the ride is the ride actually descends underground. They have an entire underground complex that the rails go through and then eventually resurface. So vertically it takes up a lot of space, but there's so little stuff in the theme parks using that vertical space. And in such a small little area, they're able to create a full experience as the queue spirals downwards and the ride goes up and down through it and then exits back out in the same spot. And then same with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where you actually go underwater. So they take an otherwise unused lake in the park, you sit in your little pods, and it takes you through the lake and the experience built from there. And same thing, so it's space that would otherwise be unused, and just puts attractions in there, I suppose. Right? Yes, Carl.
So, when people are in those really, really long lines, and say they're getting really bored and have the programs and they start making paper airplanes and throwing them around, does that break the immersion enough to warrant people coming in and like saying stop it, or is that just like
So here's
a
the
common
thing.
courtesy thing?
In parks, no one will